It was a winter morning in New York. I stepped out of the subway station, holding a steaming cup of coffee in my hands. My breath turned into mist in the cold air. White steam drifted slowly from the street's vapor pipes. Across the street, I noticed a stranger, a guy with a camera, eyes full of focus. He was looking toward the Brooklyn Bridge, as if searching for something. For a moment, our eyes met. I felt as though time had stopped. He smiled faintly, but said nothing. I turned away, yet his image stayed painted in my mind, even while staring at my computer screen at the office. My mind wandered back to that stranger. I wondered, was this just a fleeting encounter or something more? Later, I learned his name was Liam. He was a travel photographer, here to capture the city's stories in pictures. Later, I learned his name was Liam. He was a travel photographer, here to capture the city's stories in pictures. Sure enough, he was standing in the same spot, this time holding a cup of hot tea. He stepped forward and said, "Good morning." In the cold air, I returned his smile warmly. Morning. That tiny daily meeting became the brightest moment of my day. Coffee, the bridge, and a few minutes of shared smiles. These became my favorite moments. "Do you always pass by here?" His voice carried curiosity. "Yes," I replied. "It's the most beautiful route to my office." It was a winter morning in New York. I stepped out of the subway station, holding a steaming cup of coffee in my hands. "Monday," Liam said. "Let's go to Central Park, take some photos, and talk." I agreed, my heart beating fasty. As we walked through Central Park, sunlight filtered through the trees onto my face. I laughed and said, "Days like this should never end." He looked into my eyes and said, "The city feels beautiful today because of you." My cheeks turned red, and even in the cold breeze, his gaze warmed me. Our meetings were no longer just a few minutes. We shared long walks, movies, and evenings by the river. Yet a quiet fear began to grow inside me. I knew he wouldn't be here forever. One evening, standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, he said, "I might have to leave in a few months." The coffee cup in my hand trembled slightly. I turned my eyes toward the river. He paused, then said, "I want you to come with me." I stared at him in silence. Was this really possible? The next few days were wrapped in silence between us. Even the city's noise seemed far away. One night, I finally told him, "I can't imagine losing." He held my hand tightly and said, "Then we won't be apart." The following week, I went with him to California. The waves of the Pacific Ocean played a new melody in my heart. At sunset on Santa Monica Beach, the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. He whispered, "This is the moment I want to keep forever." I smiled and said, "Then I'll be in that moment forever." After the trip, we returned to New York. Our bond had deepened even more. Rainy day coffee shops, small bookstores, midnight walks by the river, all became part of our memories. But his departure date drew near. A quiet ache began building in my chest. On the night before he left, we went back to the Brooklyn Bridge. The city lights reflected on the river around us. Looking into my eyes, he said, "I want you to see every sunrise of my life." Tears welled up in my eyes. I softly said, "Then take me with you." On the day of departure, in the crowded airport, I held his hand tightly. We didn't speak, just felt the warmth of each other's hands. Our first morning in California was filled with bright sunlight. The light poured through the window onto my face. Our first morning in California was filled with bright sunlight. The light poured through the window onto my face. A new city, a new life. I began it with him. This time there was no fear of distance. We opened a small coffee shop together and named it Brooklyn Mornings. On one wall, we hung the photo from the day we first met on the Brooklyn Bridge. Customers often asked about the story behind it. The shop became popular, but for me, the real success was simply being by his side. One day he said, "Our love is like a photograph. Every frame tells a story." I learned that love is not just about staying. It's about living for each other. I learned that love is not just about staying. It's about living for each other. We argued sometimes, misunderstood each other, but always found our way back. We kept in touch with our friends in New York. Every year, we returned to New York. We'd stand on the Brooklyn Bridge and remember that first moment. He'd say, "If I hadn't lifted my camera that day, we might have stayed strangers." I'd reply, "Sometimes 1 second can change the whole course of a life." Hearing our story, many people found their faith in love. Years passed, but that morning on the Brooklyn Bridge stayed in my heart forever. An endless scene from a film that never fades.